All right, let's jump right into this explainer. I want you to close your eyes for a second and just imagine a sound. On one hand, you've got a Honda revving hard, sweeping right past 6,000 RPM, the engine note dramatically changing pitch, just absolutely screaming as it climbs. On the other hand, picture a Toyota Camry cruising down the highway, incredibly smooth, quietly making power without a fuss. Now, that aggressive sound from the Honda, that's not just an engine getting louder. That is a totally different set of mechanical rules picking in mid-drive in real time. Today, we are diving deep into an epic engineering battle between two absolute giants. For decades, Japanese engineering teams at Honda and Toyota basically went to war over engine efficiency and power, and in the process, they created a truly legendary rivalry.
And this brings us to a massive dilemma, really, the central question that plagued Japanese automotive engineering teams for decades. How on earth do you build an engine that gives you maximum fuel efficiency when you're stuck in stop-and-go traffic at 30 miles an hour, but is completely insane and powerful when you open it up at 8,000 RPM? Historically, you just couldn't have both. You had to choose. Honda's ultimate answer to this question was VTEC. Toyota's answer was VVT-i. So we're going to break down exactly what is happening inside these engines, how they actually work, and why these two drastically different approaches became the stuff of automotive legend.
Section 1. The fixed cam problem. The ultimate engineering compromise.
Okay, so to really grasp this rivalry, we've got to look at a fundamental engine component, the camshaft. Every standard internal combustion engine has these. Basically, it's a rotating metal shaft covered in these egg-shaped bumps called lobes. As the shaft spins, these egg-shaped lobes physically push the engine's valves open and then let them spring closed. Think of it as the mechanical heart of the engine. It dictates exactly when air and fuel gets let into the cylinder and exactly when the spent exhaust gets kicked out.
But here's the catch, and man, it is a massive one. A traditional cam lobe has one fixed shape. That means it provides exactly one fixed timing and one fixed duration for the valves, period. That shape is inherently a compromise. If you design that fixed cam lobe for an economy setup, you get incredibly smooth, efficient, low RPM driving. You get great gas mileage for your daily commute, but the engine is going to feel totally gutless when you push it hard. On the flip side, if you go with the performance cam design, you get that screaming high RPM power, but the car will feel weak, its idle will be super lumpy, and it will be incredibly thirsty for fuel at low speeds. For most of automotive history, you just had to pick one. You either bought an economy car or a performance car, never both. But in the late 80s and early 90s, engineers at both Honda and Toyota asked a wild question. What if the camshaft could actually change its personality depending on how hard you're driving?
Section 2. Honda's VTEC approach. The brute force light switch. Honda actually beat everyone to the punch here, introducing VTEC, which stands for Variable Valve Timing and Lift Electronic Control, on the 1989 Integra over in Japan. Let's walk through the literal physical sequence of how this works, because honestly, it is brilliantly mechanical. Instead of just one cam lobe per valve, Honda engineered two, or sometimes even three, cam lobes sitting side by side on the exact same shaft, each with a totally different shape. So step 1. When you're driving at low RPM, a small, gentle lobe controls the valve. This gives you your great fuel economy and a nice smooth idle. Step 2. You put your foot down and the engine hits a specific RPM threshold, usually around 4,500 to 6,000 RPM depending on the engine. Step 3. This is where the magic happens. At that exact threshold, oil pressure physically pushes a hydraulic pin sideways inside the engine. And step 4. That pin locks the rocker arms together. Suddenly, instead of following that mild commuter lobe, all the rocker arms are forced to follow a massive, aggressive, high-lift lobe. The valves open wider, they stay open longer, more air and fuel violently rush in, and the engine entirely transforms into race mode.
And honestly, this brings us to one of my favorite quotes from our source material. This is the literal, physical, mechanical event behind VTEC kicking in, yo. That meme isn't just internet nonsense. When people joke about VTEC on the internet, they are referencing something that actually physically switches inside the engine block. It's a hard switch. You literally have two distinct personalities, the mild-mannered commuter, and then bam, under your right foot, you feel this massive, undeniable shift in power.
Section 3. Toyota's VVT-i approach. The seamless dimmer switch.
Now, Toyota looked at this exact same fixed cam problem, but adopted a completely different philosophy when they introduced VVT-i, variable valve timing with intelligence, in 1996. If VTEC is a light switch, think of VVT-i more like a dimmer switch. Unlike Honda, Toyota doesn't swap between two different cam lobe shapes at all. There's only ever one lobe per valve in the system. Instead, Toyota uses a hydraulically controlled unit at the end of the camshaft. This unit can actually rotate the entire camshaft slightly, advancing or retarding the valve timing in a totally continuous, flowing manner. Let's break down the subtle genius of how VVT-i operates in real time.
Down at low RPM, it retards the intake timing. This ensures a buttery, smooth idle and specifically lowers emissions. But as your RPM climbs, it doesn't wait for some dramatic switch to happen. It gradually advances the timing to build torque linearly. It's constantly recalculating its position based on your RPM, the engine load, and your throttle position. We are talking about the engine's computer fine-tuning the mechanical timing dozens of times per second. The end result? It improves efficiency literally everywhere across the entire rev range. It's not sitting around waiting for a high RPM threshold to do its job. It's helping at idle, it's helping when you're just cruising at part throttle, and it is quietly, seamlessly maximizing refinement.
But, it's actually worth pointing out a really fascinating little crossover here. Toyota later developed VVT-i on some of its engines, most famously the 2ZZ-GE, which you'd find in cars like the Celica GTS and the Lotus Elise. The system actually combined Toyota's continuous VVT-i adjustment with a Honda-style lift switching system for genuine high RPM performance. So these two distinct philosophies definitely occasionally borrowed from each other to get the absolute ultimate results.
Section 4. The head-to-head battle. Two philosophies collide. So, if we put these two mechanical titans side by side, the core differences are stark. VTEC physically switches between different cam lobe profiles, while VVT-i continuously rotates the camshaft's phase. When we talk about the feel behind the wheel, VTEC gives you that unmistakable kick-in-the-pants shift in character. VVT-i, it's all about that buttery smooth, linear power delivery without any dramatic jerk. Down at low RPM, both systems are going to give you good economy for sure, but VVT-i's continuous adjustment definitely edges out in everyday refinement and emissions control. Up at high RPM, classic VTEC, especially in those legendary engines like the B16 and B18C, is famous for genuinely explosive top-end power, because it actually changes valve lift, not just timing. VVT-i just provides smooth, continuous power building. Finally, looking at complexity, VTEC is a relatively simple concept, but requires incredibly precise machining of multiple lobe profiles on a single shaft. VVT-i, on the other hand, is mechanically elegant but relies heavily on incredibly fast, constant hydraulic and electronic control from the engine's computer.
And really, the crucial takeaway here is that neither system is objectively better than the other. They are perfect physical manifestations of the corporate DNA of the companies that built them. Honda's DNA comes directly from motorcycle racing, right? They were an engineering culture utterly obsessed with high-revving performance and excitement. Toyota's DNA was entirely focused on mass-market reliability, ultimate refinement, and bulletproof daily efficiency. They both looked at the exact same fixed camshaft problem, and they solved it with two totally different personalities.
Section 5. Who won the war? The twist ending.
So, who actually won this massive early 2000s forum rivalry? Well, plot twist, everyone did, because the technology itself won out. Variable valve timing simply became the default standard for the entire automotive industry. It just works way too well not to use it. Honda's own modern engines eventually combined their classic VTEC lift with continuous timing control, essentially borrowing from Toyota's playbook. Toyota's newer engines added a system called Valvematic to introduce variable lift, taking a page right out of Honda's book. Ultimately, the entire industry realized the core truth here. Why ever compromise on an engine's design when you can just engineer the camshaft to adapt in real time?
So the next time you hear a car absolutely screaming down the street and someone yells that VTEC just kicked in, you know the precise mechanical shift that is actually happening inside that block. And when you ride in a remarkably smooth, quiet daily commuter, you know that VVT-i is adjusting timing dozens of times a second just to give you that seamless ride. It was an absolutely incredible battle of engineering giants. Let me leave you with this final thought to argue about in the comments. Are you a VTEC kick person who loves that dramatic surge of raw power, or are you a VVT-i smoothness person who appreciates flawless, quiet refinement? Let us know where you stand.